We're live. Good evening. This is attorney Vincent Davis with my co-host, Miss G, Georgette Truin, and this is the late night edition of The Secret, How to Fight CPS and Win. Miss G, how are you today?
I'm fabulous. How are you?
Good. So what are we going to be talking about today?
I'm going to be talking to you about trusts. When it comes to kids who are removed from their family that have a trust. What happens to that trust and what does CPS do with that trust?
Well, it depends. There are many different levels of what could happen. Worst case scenario for the kid is the CPS can dip into that trust since they have control over the child. Now, that is tempered by the fact that CPS is not the trustee, so they can't make decisions about the trust. But if money is going to the child who has the trust, that could be, CPS could try to take over that money.
So how can CPS take over that money?
If the trustee is giving the trust to the giving the child money. But most trustees, when I've had that situation, stop and they don't give the child any more money while they're in the government's care.
So what about if the child is adopted? What happens to the trust then?
Well, if the child is still a beneficiary, the child could still be eligible for the benefits of the trust, but that's an issue for the trustee and how the trust is written. Every trust is not the same.
Now, if that's the case, they have a trust account. Do the parents still have to pay child support? The parents have to pay child support when they're in CPS custody. You know that, right?
Well, you're asking a question that depends on a lot of different facts. It's not, stop on red, go on green. There's probably 10 different colors that you can choose from, and that depends upon what the trust says. Every trust is different. So I couldn't give you the answer to that question without looking at the trust.
Can you explain to everyone why do parents have to pay child support to the state?
It's just a law.
Mm-hmm.
If the child's not in your custody, the person who has custody of child, and that in this case CPS, can go to court and ask for child support. Actually, it's not CPS, it's the Department of Social Services or Department of Child Support Services.
So they steal their children and the parents have to pay child support to the
As
state.
long as their parental rights have not been terminated, yeah, that could happen. It doesn't happen in every case, but it does happen in some.
I see. Now, my other concern is that when parents lose their kids to CPS, they are told if they don't have a job, they have to get a job so they can pay child support. So this happened to a couple of people I spoke with. They said that the judge told
That's
them.
not true.
I'm just telling you what I was told. So I needed
Okay.
to get that,
Okay.
to make sure that they're explaining it right. And they said that they told the parents that if they have to go look for a job in McDonald's, they have to get it because they have to pay child support. Have you heard anything like that?
No, because it's not true. I mean, social worker can't make you do that.
How much power does a social worker have? Because social workers are explaining to parents that they have the upper hand.
That's a question I can't answer. Social workers have power that are given to them by the law in each state. And in California, it's the Welfare and Institutions Code. So if you want to know if a social worker can do something or not do something, I can tell you that. But sometimes, social workers do things that they don't have the power to do, like tell you to get a job at McDonald's to pay child support.
Mhm.
That's not within the social worker's purview. That's not within her jurisdiction. But she's still doing it anyway because she feels that she can.
Okay. My next question is this, and I want you to explain that to everyone that's listening or going to be listening. Um, when a social worker is involved in your case, in a parent's case, and the social worker tells the parent, "I'm not going to open a case. I'm not going to open it. I'm not going to take it. We're not going to open a case in court. We're going to close your case. Everything is going to be fine." And the parents goes on with their lives thinking the case is closed. But I often tell them, "Did you receive a letter?" I ask them if they received a letter, and they say, "No, we didn't receive a letter from the social workers." Well, how do you know the case is closed? Well, the social worker told me, right? And then 4 months down the road, they find out the case is still open when the sheriff is there. After 4 months, they say the sheriff went to the house, removed the kids at 2 o'clock in the morning, and CPS was with them. So, but that's 4 months after supposedly they closed the case and that the investigation is done.
So what's
Is
your question?
that too wrong? That would you wait? Am I explaining too much?
Yeah.
Is there? What are you drinking? What is that?
Milk.
Okay, so the social worker can actually take the kids after they say the case is closed after more than 30-day investigation. When the parents already thought the case is closed and they have a text message from the social worker, can they use that as evidence that they had no idea that the case was still open? And they have a text message from the social worker stating that the case is closed.
In the CPS case, no, they cannot. In
Hmm.
a subsequent civil rights case, maybe.
You mean the judge does not care, would not care as if it's submitted into evidence that the case was closed and the social worker told them it was closed? And
You
why would they
see,
wait 4 months if the parent is dangerous to the child?
okay, you can only ask me one question at a time, and I'll try to
Sorry.
answer it.
Mhm.
Does the judge care? The answer is probably not, because he or she shouldn't care. The judge only cares about what the law says in terms of starting a case. When the social worker was involved with the family 4 months earlier, there was no case. So that judge doesn't have any jurisdiction until they file a case. So, generally speaking, the judge probably wouldn't care about that. And if I were the judge, I probably wouldn't care about that either. Here's the unique problem that I have, excuse me, that you have, and what a lot of clients have. They expect when they go to court that the judge which will do what's fair and right. But what's fair and right to you and what's fair and right to the guy down the street and the guy around the corner, it's all different. The judge is going to try to do what's fair and right under the law. And here's the problem: you don't know the law. And these people who are calling us asking for help, they don't know the law. All they're doing is saying what they think is right and just. CPS laws are not what you think they are, right and just to you. When I first started doing CPS law, I couldn't understand why people's kids were being taken away. I didn't think it was right or just, but I didn't know the law. And unfortunately, the law gives the social worker and the judge in these cases a lot of discretion and a lot of power. Now, if you want to change the law, we've talked about this over the years. Change the law. right? Don't go to court and expect the judge to be acting according to laws that you think should be there, because they're not there. And if you want to change that, go vote. Go get 1 million people together to sign, a proposition or put
It's an
something
effect
on the
right now.
ballot
Hmm.
and change the law.
It's
But
happening.
don't. But when you go to court, you think you know the law, or you feel that the law should be this way, and then when it's not, you're upset.
Hmm.
You cry foul. You cry corruption, and it's not. It's just the way the law is set up. And if this has nothing to say about you personally, and you work with me for a long time, but you don't know the codes. You know, you don't know the evidence code, the code of civil procedure, the code of the welfare and institutions code. You don't know the civil rights laws, all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
You just feel from your heart what's morally right and morally wrong. Well, that doesn't play well in the court system. Right? They're not interested in what you feel is fair. Just telling it like it is. I mean, but it's the same, in all aspects of life. If you think something's unfair, get the law changed. Over the many years I've talked to people about how they feel about the laws and how unfair they feel the laws are. But I can probably count on one hand people who've actually tried to do something, or who are doing something to try to change the laws. But other than that, 99.9% of the people, they complain about the law, but they don't do anything about it. I'm not really a lip reader, so you might be on mute.
You put me on mute.
No, I haven't touched
Really?
anything. Yeah.
Okay. People are making a change. There actually are. There's a lot of movement going on right now, and I know about it. And they're in Washington D.C. and they are making a difference. So that is in effect right now. Okay, but right
I don't
now,
think so. I don't think so.
boy, you're a ball buster, aren't you?
You know, talk is
Right now,
cheap. Talk is cheap.
talk is not. No, they're actually there. What are you talking about? It's all over social media.
You seeing any votes change? You see any
No,
laws
but it's
change?
an effect. Nothing happens overnight. Rome wasn't
Yeah.
built overnight.
The only thing that I saw that happened is when your president threatened to close down CPS
Here's
nationwide.
my president, and I'm proud he's my president.
I mean, that was
Yours was Camel Toe Harris, which she didn't do shit except all the time.
she's never been president.
I know, but she was running for president. Her ass couldn't even make it.
So President Trump threatened to close down CPS.
Yeah, he's your president too, buddy.
That would have settled everything. All concerns people had about being treated unfair. I
Mm.
think I read something. I saw something where he allegedly said, family problems should be solved by the family, not by social workers, or something like that.
He
So
wants to push for reunifications, family reunification. And I think you're listening to the far left news, the fake media that I've learned to. I've actually investigated on my own and found out that they actually everything they say is completely false. So I don't know what program you listen to, but whatever you're saying is false.
it's MSNBC,
Of course. Of course.
CNN.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I don't listen to those. I don't
What?
listen to those, Veronica. I hope they close down CPS, and if they do, how would things play out? Baby, it would be heaven on earth Because if they put CPS, if actually they bring accountability to the social workers' malice behavior, if they actually take away all the funding that they get, that they claim they don't get, they say we didn't get any fundings. No, they do get fundings. Okay. Anyways, if they shut that down,
Hold on a second.
social workers are not going to steal children.
Let me reel you back in. Let's get back on topic.
Thank you, Cynthia.
So you asked me a question. I answered it. What's your next question? Hey, there's something that I want to tell people. I want to tell you how you should argue in court with your lawyer and with the judge if you are speaking to the judge. Okay. They teach you this in law school. And I had a discussion with someone about this today. And, a lot of people go to court and they don't know what to say or how to say it. There is a formula for arguing things in court. And I'm going to tell you this formula. I don't know if it's a secret formula, but lawyers don't really talk about it. It's just something basic that they learned in first year of law school. But if you've never been to law school, you don't know the formula. So let me tell you the formula.
But before you start, please explain also how the parent can argue anything in court when the judge tells them to shut up and sit down.
No, if a judge tells you to shut up and sit down, you got to shut up and sit down.
But that no judges want you to speak. And you know
Sorry?
that. There's a lot of judges that don't want you to speak.
Right, because they want to only hear from your attorney. But anyway, let me tell you what you or your attorney should be using in court, or you can use it against, with your attorney to try to convince him or her to do certain things. All right. If you're writing something in a legal argument for like a motion, it's something called IRAC, IRAC. And IRAC is where you state what the issue is or what your argument is. All right, that's the I, the issue. The R is you have to state the rule.
Mm-hmm.
The A is you have to analyze the current facts and the facts of where the rule came from. Okay. And C is the conclusion. You have to state your conclusion. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you're verbally arguing, you use something called CRAC, crack, not IRAC, crack. And crack typically is where you state your conclusion. I'll give you an example. I made this motion today, and the motion was a motion in limine to not use a social worker's report. So crack was, Your Honor, please, or the law requires us to exclude the social worker's report. That was the conclusion. Exclude the social worker's report from evidence. The rule was, I cited several cases and a statute. In re Dolly D, in re Melinda S, and Welfare and Institutions Code 355. Those were the rules. Typically, if I feel the judge knows the rule, I'll just briefly say what the rule is. So that was the CR. The A is the analysis. So in our case, we had facts ABC. In Ray Dolly D had facts BCD. Our case is very close to In Re Dolly D, where they excluded the social worker's report from evidence. Therefore, Your Honor, conclusion C of the crack, you should exclude the social worker's report from evidence. So you got the IRAC when you're writing legal arguments and motions, and you have the crack where you're orally arguing motions. Okay. And I thought I would mention that today on the show because I was having a discussion with another attorney about this. Now, I've been an attorney almost 40 years. This attorney has been an attorney almost 35 years. And we went to different law schools, but we both learned those things the first semester of law school. And it's just becomes part of our being as we argue cases in writing or orally in court. So everyone should remember IRAC and crack.
That's actually a good point. But again, when you explain that to parents and they're already emotionally distraught and emotionally tired and mentally exhausted, how are they going to get? I don't know. Most of the parents I speak with, they're not.
You
They're
know,
not.
I know what you're saying, and I agree with you.
Mhm,
But here's what I think sometimes the best thing you can do, and what I try to do, but I'm not as successful as I like, and that is to try to tell people to control their emotions.
mm,
You know, if they face a situation or a dilemma, and their emotions are off the chain, they have a 1 in 1,000 chance of winning, right? Now, the more you can control your emotions and focus, um, your probability of success goes a lot higher. Now, this
mhm,
is not me saying this. I'm telling you about people that have written about these issues throughout our history.
mhm.
And, famous books and authors have talked about focusing and trying to control your emotions, because when you control your emotions, you're making decisions based upon emotions instead of facts and evidence.
Mhm.
So sometimes people call you, and they're totally distraught, and I understand. And sometimes they just want people to listen. Um, and we can do that, but at some point we have to try to tell them what should be done. You know what should be done, and
Okay.
sometimes they don't want to listen to it.
No, they don't. But they really don't. They really don't listen. I'm being honest with you. They don't. And you know that. You actually know that. How many times have you told a client, don't do this, and they did it, and then they come and blame you for their own stupidity? I mean, I had a client today. She said, well, Attorney Davis said not to speak to the social workers, but they were at my house. And I had to speak with them. They said if I don't speak with them, they're not going to give me my kids. I said, then why did you hire Attorney Davis? If they were going to give you your kids, they should have given you your damn kids 6 months ago, right? Why wait
Right.
until the 12th month, to give you your kids? If they talk to you, they've talked to you 100 times.
Well, my advice is not. I don't tell people don't talk to the social worker. I
Without
say
you present, I should say
don't
that
talk to
differently.
the
Yeah,
don't talk to the social worker unless I'm present in person or I'm on the telephone.
exactly.
Right.
Right.
Yesterday, one of our clients
Hi,
went to
Deidre. Mm,
went to a social worker meeting,
mhm,
but she had me on the phone to ask me questions. My client asked me questions during the meeting.
mm,
Social worker wasn't very happy, but there's nothing they can do about it.
mm.
You don't even have to talk to the social worker.
Right. But they're going to use tricks. They're going to use tricks.
Well, after the meeting was over and I thought my client was going to be running out of the office, she hung around and the social worker kept trying, she said, to ask her questions and to
Mhm.
talk about the case. But she said she hung tight.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is if the social worker tries to trick them, if they hired you, right? and you tell them not to speak with them without your presence or even being on the phone or on Zoom, and they do it anyways,
Oh yeah,
how how harmful, wait, how bad is it for their case? I just want everyone to hear this, okay?
in my opinion, it's not significantly bad at all.
What?
A lot of times social workers will put in the report and they won't use it against the client. They'll use it against me. They'll say, Attorney Davis told his client not to talk to us. And several judges over the years have asked me, like, did you say that, Mr. Davis? Not quite, but generally speaking, yes. And they look at me like, why would you do that? One
No.
judge actually several years ago asked me why I would do that. And I said, well, I'm trying to defend my client and I'm trying to get her children back in her care.
Mhm.
And after so many years of doing this, that's my advice that I give my clients. I mean,
Right.
the judge just looked at me like, what could she say?
Wait, I'm talking about how bad is it for the case if they have you as an attorney and you tell your clients don't speak to the social worker without your presence. How bad is it for the client?
Legally, it's supposed to be a 0.
Okay, you're
But
not making
but
sense
so-
to me tonight because you always, okay,
but
please.
social workers try to use it against them.
Right. But that's why your presence is important.
Yeah,
Because if the social worker asks your client a question that you don't want your client to answer, you're going to object to that. You're going to say, my client will not answer that question.
correct.
Okay, so it's not a good idea to speak with the social workers without your presence if you are the attorney.
Correct, but that's not the question you asked me.
Right. So
You asked me a totally different question.
I asked you,
How
how bad
bad
would
is
it
it?
be
Yeah,
for your
that's a
client
totally different
to
question.
speak? But you know, it's the same question because your answer to me all the time.
It's the same question if you are not a lawyer. If you're a lawyer, it's a different question.
It is detrimental to the case if they open their mouth because the social workers are not going to write everything they're saying factual. They're going to add 900 sentences to 3 sentences the client said. Right?
Hey, look what Miss Deidre said. If you guys missed the
It's
show
enough
last
that
night,
this is on my case.
if
You
you
need
guys
to
missed the show last night, I told a story about how Miss G went to court with me on 2 occasions, fell asleep in the courtroom, and the judge and the bailiff had her removed from the courtroom.
Would you stop?
It's kind
Seriously?
of like it's kind of like talking to a social worker. It's not a good idea to talk to a social worker. It's not a good idea to fall asleep in the courtroom.
Completely different things. Okay. I fell asleep because all
Yeah,
of you guys
falling
were
asleep
boring.
is
You guys were
worse.
not talking. It was silent. Okay. And it was like either one of those. I didn't have coffee day. Leave me alone. And if you remember, I said
Look,
I need
cut,
to stop
look,
caffeine,
cut.
and I did try to stop caffeine.
Very sad, Tuck. Very sad.
Tuck, you don't know the whole story, man. Please. You don't know the whole story. I was
Not
trying to stop.
once, but twice.
You like that. You love that. I don't hold anything you've done. I don't even talk about it on the shows. If they only knew.
All right, what's your next question?
See how you just kind of changed the subject when it came to you.
I'm a
Thank you,
pretty good lawyer
Cynthia.
about that.
Thank you. That somebody's on my side. Jesus Christ. Deidre, I'm gonna get you for that. You have to bring it up. Deidre, yes, she's been hanging out with you too long or around you. Jesus Lord, Deidre. Third time too? No, he's making that up. It was only twice.
Did you understand the explanation of how to argue on paper or orally before a judge?
You already explained that to them. My thing was, what
No,
if
no.
the
I ask you. Did you understand it?
yeah, I understand it, but it's not gonna work if you are not. This is not your profession. You haven't been doing it, right? It's not something you do every day. You can't do that. You A parent, when they're dealing with CPS, they're not eating, they're not sleeping, they're not exercising. In order for you to even gain closure and stability in your head, you have to exercise at least. You have to get yourself moving so you can be able to sound clear, so you can gain your.
Uh-oh. I think we have lost Miss G. She just won't plug it into the router. She just won't plug it into the router, folks.
It's not me. They were here today. I sent you a screenshot of what he told me to buy, and I had to order it from Amazon. And you're
Yeah,
like,
but
oh, that looks great. I'm going to buy one too.
until you get that device, you need to be plugged into the router.
I can't because it's over there in the bedroom. I'm in my
I told
office
you to
and I'm in the living room.
get a cable, 50-foot cable, and run the cable. And you criticize clients that don't follow my advice.
This show ain't about me today. Deidre, did you see what you started? Did you see what you started?
Look, let's answer this question. Let's answer this lady's question.
Mm-hmm.
This is Rosemarie. What do I do if my social worker is the same social worker as my uncle and judging me as if I were the same as my uncle? You can make a motion under Welfare and Institutions Code Section 16,500 or around there. You can ask for a new social worker. A lot of people don't know that. You can actually ask for a new social worker if you believe your social worker is somehow prejudiced or biased against you. So, Rosemary, I hope that answers your question. If you're in California, you want to look up those code sections. If you're not, or even if you are, if you're not, talk to your attorney about making that type of motion. Oh, here's Rosemary says, my county agency doesn't want to change my social worker. I know they never want to change it, but when you make a motion, the judge has to decide your motion. So the judge is free to say, I'm sorry, county, even if you don't want to change Rosemary's social worker, I'm going to order you to do that. So judges have a lot of power and a lot of discretion over social workers, over you, over the children. All right. So it's always good that, when you go to court, you don't fall asleep in front of the judge, right, Miss G? Okay, Miss Payne, how'd you like I worked that in? Does Miss
Miss
Payne have a
Payne,
question?
Miss Payne has a question. Yes, answer her question.
I can't see it so small on my screen. What does it say?
She said, why should a social worker be able to talk with my kids and not have unbiased adult presence so that the social worker can't twist the kids' words?
Good question.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the answer, and I'm not trying to be a smart ass. The answer is because the law allows them to. It's just one of the rules that I didn't make up. Guess what? The social worker didn't make it up. Guess what? The judge didn't make it up. The state legislature of our state made
I don't
that
even
up.
know if I'm frozen. I know
You're not
Davis is gone.
you were frozen, but you're not now.
I think it's Davis's Wi-Fi. I think it's your connection, Vincent.
I don't use Wi-Fi.
Davis, I think it's your connection.
Everybody can hear and see me. It's you that keep freezing. Anyway, so Deidre, I hope that answered your question. Okay, it's just the law. Something, sometimes people don't like what the law says.
Hmm.
And that doesn't mean you can go to court and convince the judge to not follow the law, right? If you want to do something, you got to change that law.
Deidre, you just want to side with Davis about everything. She's your biggest fan, Sarah. She goes, it's always Miss G. It's always me.
All right. So we're moving to
Okay.
minute 36. Do you have any other questions that you wanted to ask me?
Yeah, I do.
Okay,
If
go ahead.
if the grandparent works with the social, she works as a social worker, right? The grandparent, the paternal grandparent, for example, she's a social worker, and the
For the
mother is
county?
yes, and the mother is dealing is San Bernardino, and the mother is dealing with the CPS case. That's the paternal grandmother who's a social worker. The paternal grandmother re- reports her daughter-in-law because she doesn't like her. So whatever, some malice shit going on with them. The mother, the biological parent, is telling the social worker that came to her house, "Hey, my mother-in-law works for your department, right? And we had beef, together, and blah 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 blah, and words exchanged, and all of a sudden you're here at my
So let me
house."
let me tell you what the mother should do. Again, this is actually viable in the law. The mother should, obviously, there's a conflict between the mother and the paternal grandmother who works for the social worker agency. So the mother and her attorney should make a motion to disqualify the agency and have the state of California come down and represent um, the agency's interests, or to just take over the case at a state level. Now, there's actually laws that allow that to happen. In almost 40 years, you know how many times I've seen that happen?
How many?
Once. And that was on a case that I was on. One time. So if somebody brought that up, I would bet $1 most of the judges that are sitting now probably haven't even heard of that statute and would have to look it up.
Well, her attorney right now from Wilshire, she hired an attorney. Supposedly, he knows what he's doing. Anyways, the attorney told her that there's nothing she can do about it.
That's not true.
Hmm.
That's definitely not true. Now,
Wow.
there's something that she can do. Whether she's going to win on that motion, that's a whole nother thing. What a lot of attorneys do is um, they know that theoretically there's a motion that can be made, but for whatever reason, they decide not to make the motion. It may be because they think that the motion is going to be a loser, so they don't make the motion. What happens, for me, 9 times out of 10, is if I do the research and I realize what the law says and I look at the legislative history, a motion that you thought was a loser is a dead bang winner. You just didn't know the law, right? You didn't know you could make that kind of motion. But to tell the client there's nothing that can be done, that's not correct. What should be told to the client is, you can make a motion, but I think there'll be a waste of time and money. So I don't think you should make that motion, right? But there's definitely something that can be done. And sometimes when you make a motion and you present the right facts and evidence and law, the judge says, oh, you know what? I'm going to grant that motion. Because if it's a really good motion written by the attorney and the judge denies it, you might have appellate remedies where you can appeal or at least take a writ, an emergency appeal to a higher court. And, sometimes that higher court would say, well, wait a minute, hold on, hold on, hold on. If the grandmother's a social worker with that county agency, and, let's make it even better for the mother, and she works in the same office, either that case has to be transferred to another office or transferred to the state.
What
And
if
that's
okay, what if the case has been years, like decades old, like 10 years old? Can she still do something about it?
yes, she can. But that's not the right question. The right question is, will that be used against her because she waited so late? And the answer is yes, it will be. There's something in the law called latches, which means, you had a really good argument, but you didn't bring it up early enough. So if you wait, 10 years, it's too late to bring that up because of the concept of latches.
What if she brought it up in trial? I mean, in an appeal.
Can't bring it up in appeal if you didn't bring it up in the trial court. But if she makes the motion and she loses, she has appellate remedies.
Okay, what if she told her court appointed attorney and he did not do anything about it in the appeal, in the trial court?
The attorney has some discretion. He or she may have decided that, you could make a motion, but it'd be a waste of my time. And therefore they didn't make the motion. So what she would need to do is get a new attorney who will make that motion, right? I was just hired by a client, not in Los Angeles, but she hired me because her attorney wouldn't file a 388 petition.
Oh, is that the one that you just went to court yesterday?
Mm-mm, no.
Oh, okay.
So first thing we did was file a 388 petition. Then I realized when I got into the case,
Mm.
someone else in the case could also file a 388 petition.
Who's that?
It was the stepfather who had custody of the other children,
Mm,
right?
mm.
And the other children their case had already been closed, but he wasn't the father of the seventh child. So then he files a 388 and he's somewhat successful. I mean, we're still going through the procedures and everything. But see, that's exactly what just told you. You file the 388, you make the motion for the client, and then you realize other things about the case that can be done. But if you decide at the very beginning, hey, your 388 probably isn't going to win, so I'm not going to do it, you're never going to have those moments of clarity where you realize there's other strategies here. You get it?
I get it.
Okay.
I have one more thing.
Mm-hmm.
When that it's a child abuse case, right? Say the teenager doesn't like her stepdad telling her what to do or taking away her phone. They report sexual molestation, right? And then the stepdad doesn't even stay at home. He's a truck driver. He goes, gone for days and weeks. The mother tells the social workers, my husband is not even home. She's doing this in retaliation because her friend told her that the social work, if you're with the state, then they're gonna give you money every month. You're gonna do whatever you want. You can go out, you can date whoever, there's no restrictions, etc., etc. When she sees how bad life is in the CPS world, the teen wants to take back her lies, right? She said, I made it up because my stepdad was too strict on me, and he didn't want me to go out with boys. He told my mom to take my phone from me, blah, 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 because I was failing school. But then the social workers don't care and they continue on with their shenanigans, right? Now, they put a child, they put the father and the mother on the CACI list, the state CACI list. They did not receive anything telling them that they were going to do that. So they didn't know, right? So now what can the parent do to clean all this up? Like to
They,
clear their record.
they have to file a lawsuit against the county for putting them on the CACI.
Is the county supposed to do that though? Are they supposed to put them on the CACI list before even the case was closed?
They can in certain situations, but they have to give them notice.
Did you hear that, everyone? I hope to God you guys are listening. The state, the county has to give you notice that you're going to be put on the state calculus, so you have time to fight it.
Right,
Okay,
right.
right. Especially if
Now,
you
now,
lose your job over.
if the child made allegations that she now recants, the
Mm-hmm.
parent or
Mm-hmm.
parents would
Stop it.
probably make a motion to
Mm-hmm.
set aside the findings and orders that were made against them because of the girl's false testimony.
So the social worker's telling the judge is not true, and she's doing it because she's scared. That that's and then the judge doesn't believe it. What else can the parent do? What else can
You
the
you have
parent do?
you have to file a motion. You have to put the kid back on the stand.
You're a good attorney. Mm. You actually answer questions that the other attorneys would say, "Oh, it's too late." You know.
Well, here's the thing, Georgette. Some attorneys really believe that it's too late, but their belief is formed by their experience and their expertise, right? Attorneys have different levels of experience and expertise. So if your attorney is a 5-year attorney telling you this, that's based upon his or her level of experience of 5 years as an attorney. But you ask me, I'm a 39, almost 40-year attorney. So I'm going to, just because I have more experience, I'm going to give a different answer, right? You have to understand when you're getting an answer from someone, you have to understand who you're getting it from and why. All right. A 5-year attorney is a licensed attorney, and they're probably doing their best, but it's limited by their knowledge and experience.
Oh,
You know,
sweetie.
you see this all the time, especially with doctors, right? We had someone that used to work at the office. You know him. I won't mention his name, but he went to his oncologist, his cancer doctor, and
Mm-hmm.
his cancer doctor, who had 13 years experience, had all the certifications, told him, Mr. So and so, you have less than a year to live,
Mm, I
right?
know what you're talking about.
Well, Mr. So and so got desperate, and he ends up at a doctor in Washington, D.C., at Howard University, who's also a cancer specialist, but he's a 35-year cancer specialist.
Mm-hmm.
And he reviews Mr. So and so's cancer records or medical records and says, oh, your doctor is using the wrong medication. There's something better out there right now. And by the way, if he was going to use that medication for treatment, he's doing the wrong protocol. He's using the wrong dose, and he's not giving it to you at the recommended frequency and duration of treatment to keep your cancer under control or in remission. Now, Mr. So and so, he says, I'm going to call your doctor and I'm going to explain this to him. And to the doctor's credit in LA, the doctor listened to the 35-year-old doctor or the 35-year doctor, changed everything about Mr. So and so's treatment. Mr. So and so is still alive today, alive and kicking. Because when this happened, this is about 15 years ago.
Oh, we're not talking about the same thing. Okay, good.
15 years ago. He was supposed to be dead 14 years ago. And had he not found a more experienced doctor,
He would have been dead.
he would be dead.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the only difference between those two people, the two doctors, was experience, not intelligence, right? Experience. So I give you that example. It happens all the time. Do you think it happens with lawyers? Yeah. You just don't realize it. Does it happen with your plumber, your electrician, your roofer, your auto mechanic? You just don't realize it.
Did you see what Deidre wrote? She gets you every time. She gets you.
Oh yeah. Hey, that's true.
I know.
I had
And
that.
then she said,
I had this same issue with my medical doctor. It seems like maybe 10, 12, 14 years ago. And I wasn't going to go get a second opinion. I just believe my doctor at Kaiser. Yeah, let's go have this operation. Let's remove my thyroid. I don't know if I ever told you guys this in the story originally, but when I went to the first doctor who happened to be more experienced, a lot more experienced,
mhm.
he laughed when I told him the doctor wanted to remove my thyroid. He laughed. And because I didn't really trust that when he laughed, I go to another specialist and he says, I'm going to send you out for tests. They send me out for tests. The doctor that did the test says, no, you don't need your thyroid removed. Who told you that? And when I said, oh, my endocrinologist at Kaiser, he kind of rolled his eyes like, oh boy. So I go back to my second, doctor with these test results, and he goes, hey, whoever told you that is incorrect. Do not have that operation. Now, the only differences between these four doctors, because one doctor did these specialized tests, was experience. That was all. They were all doctors. They were all certified specialists, with all the initials after their names. But the doctor that I was going to rely on was the least experienced. She was like a 12 or 15-year doctor, something like that.
Mhm.
And the other people I went to, they were in their, 20, 25, 30-year experience. So when a lawyer tells you something, it's not that they're incompetent. They're not incompetent. They're just limited by their experience.
I like to think they're incompetent.
No. When I was a 5-year lawyer,
You know what I'm saying.
I thought that I was the greatest lawyer in the world.
You are.
When I became a 10-year lawyer, I started to realize how much I didn't know just from experience. And I had that same revelation when I was a 15-year lawyer, at a 20-year lawyer. Now I'm going on, 40 years.
Yeah, but that's not the same. But you never. I guess I know you don't need anyone to defend you. You don't care what
No,
people
no,
say, but
it doesn't matter. But what I'm telling you is experience matters,
experience
right?
does matter. Absolutely, I agree with
So,
you.
so, so when people when the 5 or 10-year lawyer gives you their opinion, it's not necessarily wrong. It's just limited by their experience. You know, to this evening, I'm doing a case up in Santa Barbara County, and I met a private attorney up there who's a friend of the client's, and he called me earlier today, and he wanted to speak to me. Now, this guy's like an 18, 19-year attorney, right? You think he's pretty experienced.
Mm,
He called me and said, hey, I want to run something by you. I want your opinion. And, after we started talking about the situation and the strategy,
mm.
he says, you know why I called you? Because even though I'm 18 years or whatever he says, you're more than twice as experienced as I am. And I wanted to hear what you had to say based upon your experiences. It's just the experience. And I can say that now because when I was a young lawyer, I didn't believe that. As a 5-year lawyer, I didn't believe experience mattered at all. But it does.
But you took the extra step to learn from Jerry Spence, the number one
Yeah,
trial.
I did, but that was an accident. That was purely an accident.
So you didn't do it on purpose to gain more knowledge and be able to win cases? I doubt that very much.
Well, I did because someone explained to me that I wasn't as good as I thought. And it wasn't that I didn't know the law. That wasn't it.
Mm-hmm.
It was just I didn't know the secrets of being a really, really good trial attorney. And that takes, someone has to teach you that
Mm-hmm.
in a formal setting. I've used this example with you a lot. I've told you the story. There is an attorney in Pasadena who is one of the most well-known, well-respected family law attorneys.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I went to watch a trial that he was doing with one of my attorneys, one of my associates at the time. And I was sitting there thinking, this guy's a terrible trial attorney. That's what's going through my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the case, we won. And all he could say was the judge was corrupt and didn't know what he was doing and blah, 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 blah. Not once did he ever think, I might not be as good as a trial attorney as I think I am. Mm-hmm. Right? Because he just doesn't know.
Right.
You don't know what you don't know.
Right. I agree.
So experience matters.
I agree. I really do agree. But never mind. I'll leave that for tomorrow. Rosemary asked if you practice law. If you take cases in Merced County. Yes, he does. I think I spoke with you today, if I'm not mistaken. But yes, he does take cases there.
Hey, Rosemary, if you're in Merced County, when I travel up to Merced, I go to a small airport near LAX, and I get in this little prop plane, and it flies and it lands at the Merced Airport, which is like about 15 minutes from the courthouse in Merced. And the client picks me up, I go to the courthouse, and then we do the reverse to fly back. Mm-hmm. The only bad thing about that whole trip is, the prop planes, sometimes they get a little shaky when they come across wind gusts and stuff like that. But Merced, for me, is one of the easiest courts to get to in Central and Northern California.
You're mean. Deidre, stop it. You are mean. That's horrible. Miss G falls asleep at Merced.
Hey, Miss G, before we leave, because it's almost an hour, do you have one more question you want to ask me? What a co-host you are.
You're horrible. You started. You did this. You did this. You did this. You did this deliberately. You did this deliberately.
Alrighty, folks. Thank you for watching. This is our late night edition, Monday through Friday at 10 p.m. So we'll see everyone tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Oh, God.
A vivid picture is encrypted in your mind as the critics get in line like they're witnessing a crime. But then you notice there's a shiver in your spine from the feelings of discontentment and bitterness combined. heartbroken when you listen to the judges. Another kid's innocence corrupted, and if you go against then it's destructive. Consider this predicament the toughest, but we believe in a system fit for justice. Child Protective Services only pretends to save it. The one solution for this is worthy of instant praises. 30 years of experience with relentless cases. Allow me to introduce them. This is Vincent Davis, defending you when they don't think a mother fits the role. Is it juvenile dependency or government control? Observe the pain in their eyes. It's time for us to realize we are the
last ones left. Put your faith in